A simple woman kicked out of first class, then they learn her billionaire husband owns the airline. Everyone on that plane thought she was nobody, just a quiet woman in plain clothes who didn't belong in first class. They whispered, judged, and finally demanded the flight attendants remove her. But the moment the plane doors closed, one call changed everything, because that simple woman they humiliated wasn't just any passenger, she was the wife of the man who owned the entire airline. And what happened next is a story they will never forget. Before we begin, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Tales and Turns for more life-changing stories. Also, tell us in the comments where you're watching from, your country or city. She arrived at the airport alone, wearing a soft beige sweater, loose jeans, and an old canvas backpack. Nothing about her appearance suggested privilege or power, and she liked it that way. Maya preferred simplicity. After all, money had never mattered to her. She had been married for 7 years to Adrian Cole, the famously private airline billionaire who rarely appeared in public, but she never flaunted his name. That morning, she simply wanted to surprise him at a business destination, something she hadn't done in years. But as she stepped into the first-class cabin, the atmosphere shifted instantly. A couple of passengers glanced at her as though she'd wandered into the wrong world. The whispers started right away. A woman in a sharp red blazer leaned toward her husband and murmured loud enough for Maya to hear, "Some people just try to sneak in." Another muttered, "She must be confused. First class isn't cheap." Maya kept her head down, not wanting to cause trouble. She knew the seat was legitimately booked under her name, she didn't need to flash her husband's last name to prove anything. But she could feel the weight of their judgment pressing against her like an invisible wall. Minutes later, the flight attendant approached, wearing a strained smile. "Ma'am, are you sure you're in the right seat? First class begins at row 1. Maya gently handed over her boarding pass, fully expecting the conversation to end there. Instead, the attendant's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed with reluctance. "There must be a mistake." Maya felt her chest tighten. She'd been in uncomfortable situations before, but something about this moment, the stares, the whispers, the quiet snickering, cut deeper than she expected. Another passenger, a man in an expensive suit, finally stood up and called out loud enough for everyone to hear, "If she can't afford the section, she shouldn't block it." Some of us actually paid the price. Laughter rippled through the seats. Maya felt her cheeks heat, not with shame, but with a rising sadness. The attendant gently touched her arm and said, "Ma'am, please come with me. We can't hold the boarding process." Even though Maya tried explaining again, she was escorted out, watched by dozens of smug eyes. She was taken to economy. And for the first time in years, Maya felt small. Not because of wealth, but because of the cruelty that came so naturally to people who believed they were superior. She took a deep breath and sat quietly, texting her husband only to tell him she was on board, nothing more. She didn't want to burden him with the humiliation she had just experienced. She closed her eyes, trying to regain some calm before takeoff. But then something unexpected happened. Just before the doors closed, a surge of footsteps echoed through the aisle. A tall man in a charcoal suit, face tense and eyes blazing, stepped inside. Passengers straightened in awe, some recognizing him instantly. Adrian Cole rarely flew commercially, but today he boarded unannounced, security trailing behind him. Every first-class passenger watched in confusion as he strode past them without a glance, heading straight to the back. When he found Maya sitting quietly in seat 34A, his expression softened into concern. "Love," he said gently, kneeling beside her so he was eye level. "Why are you back here? I booked you in seat 1A." Maya's eyes shimmered, but she forced a small smile. "It's fine. They thought I didn't belong there." Adrian's face darkened, not with anger at her, but with fury at the people who dared to humiliate his wife. He stood up, his presence commanding the entire cabin instantly. Without raising his voice, he said to the head attendant, "Gather your first-class crew." And the passengers responsible for removing her. The attendants froze, pale with realization. Whispers broke out. Some passengers sat rigidly, trying not to be noticed. Adrian continued, "My wife sits wherever she wants on my airline." The words echoed like a thunderclap through the cabin as gasps erupted. The passengers who mocked her earlier stared in absolute disbelief. Within minutes, apologies flooded toward Maya from trembling attendants and speechless passengers. But Adrian wasn't interested in public humiliation or revenge. Instead, he simply extended his hand to his wife and said softly, "Come on. Let's sit together." But Maya shook. "Ram, how you treat people." Adrian paused, then nodded with pride, taking the seat beside her without hesitation, choosing economy over privilege, simply because she was there. The passengers watched as the billionaire and his simple wife sat side by side, holding hands like any ordinary couple. And in that moment, something shifted. The people who had judged her felt a sting of shame, realizing too late that compassion costs nothing, but judgment can cost everything. As the plane took off, Maya rested her head on Adrian's shoulder, grateful not for his wealth, but for the kind of love that stood beside her in any seat, any cabin, any circumstance. By the time they landed, the story had already spread through the airline staff like wildfire. Some said it became a quiet reminder across the company: never judge a passenger by their clothes, their seat, or their silence. Because kindness is the real first class, and Maya had shown them all what true dignity looked like. And Adrian? He learned something too. Sometimes the strongest woman in the room is the one who speaks the least, because she lets her grace do the talking. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Tales and Turns for more powerful narratives that touch the heart.